Welcome to the Clue Crew Mystery Channel. My name is Wendy Neugent, and I am the author of the Cruise Ship Mystery Series, Olivia Morgan Cruise Ship Mysteries. And I'd like to introduce you to my beautiful cousin, Jen. Jen
Oh,
is an avid reader and one of my favorite people in the world. And today she is going to interview me for the channel about my books and things like that.
I
So,
sure am. Thank you for the introduction, Wendy. Let's dive in, why don't we?
awesome.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became an author?
So I started writing in my late 40s, but the inspiration for the books came because I worked on cruise ships for a decade before I had my kids. So from about 22 to 32, I worked on cruise ships as an entertainer. And I was a magician, an illusionist performing on the big stage. And yeah, so it was really fun and it was exciting. And I got to go all over the world. And I worked until I was 5 months pregnant with my oldest son, who turns 22 this month. And then I got off ships, and this idea had been banging around in my head back when I worked on cruise ships, but I, had kids and all of life and everything like that. And so then, as my kids got older, and I started to be able to like have some time to think and do something other than just mothering, I the idea kept coming back to me, and my youngest son is an avid chess player, and we had gone down to Florida for a chess tournament for him, for a scholastic chess tournament. And we stayed in Canaveral, where I had lived for a while when I was working on cruise ships. And we were standing out on the balcony and we were watching the cruise ships back and forth. And I looked at my husband and I'm like, this idea back when I worked on cruise ships. And he's like, you need to write those books. So that's
I love
how
it.
I ended up writing them. So
I
I
love
published my first one, I think, about 2.5 years ago, and
it.
I don't know, 5, 6 books now. I also have a book set in Key West. I love Key West, and it was a great excuse to, kind of in my imagination. And hopefully, I'll go do some actual research down in Key West pretty soon, because why not, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I
Absolutely.
have a parrot is my parrot sidekick because I had a parrot when I worked on ships, and so it just was perfect. I love mysteries, and I grew up reading mysteries. My grandma was a huge mystery reader, and we would trade back bags of books. Lillian Jackson Braun with the Cat Who series was like my all-time favorite. We read every single one and shared them together. And then my youngest son has also read them all, so my mom's just a slacker who wouldn't is not a reader, but she reads
He's
my
gonna
book.
right.
Yeah, yeah, she reads my book. She just doesn't read anybody else's. But yeah, so it was super fun, and I love writing them. And yeah, so now I get to
That's so cool.
kind of
So
share that experience, kind of behind the scenes of working on a cruise ship.
that's awesome. So did you actually use a parrot in your magic show
Yeah,
on the ship?
yes, yes,
No
yes,
kidding.
yes,
I
yes.
think you may have told me that, but, you know,
It's been a long time. It's
it's been
okay. It was like
a hot
30 years
minute.
ago. Yeah.
And
So yeah, yeah, it's been a long time. But yeah, so it was really tricky traveling with a parrot. But yeah, it was so worth it because I am an animal lover, and it was a
Mhm.
great excuse to be able to have a pet when I was traveling all the time because if he's part of the show, we had to go.
So my next question was, where did you draw what drew you to the mystery genre? But obviously, you've already told us how that happened. Do
I mean,
you
I
actually oh,
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
do you actually remember the first mystery novel you ever read?
Well, I was a huge Trixie Belden fan. I actually
Okay.
they're up there, actually.
Okay,
I have
okay.
my entire original mystery series of Trixie Belden that, my parents got for me when I was a little girl, and just loved it. Like, I it was back in the day where you had to, like, save up little labels in the back of the book and order off for a T-shirt, and I got a
Yes,
Trixie
I
Belden
don't
T-shirt.
remember that.
Oh, I was, yeah, super, super into it. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge reader. I read nonfiction, I read fiction. I love the classics. I love biographies. But I think there's just something about mysteries that are just so much fun, and the puzzle and putting it together. And I love the fact that there's always justice at the end. Like, the bad guy
Yes,
always gets it, because that's not
yes,
necessarily how life is. But it can be when I live in when you write a book, you're living in that world for so long. It's
yes.
really nice to have it like, yeah, there's justice at the end.
That's so cool. So, what do you love most about writing mysteries?
I think it's the just to be able to escape into your imagination. Like, the world is pretty stressful and pretty hard a lot, and
Mhm.
so when I am writing a book, like, I am there in my imagination, and it's kinda wild. My husband jokes that I'm a little like, he's like, "I don't know how that happens," but I'm writing, and it's almost like the characters are just doing the things, and I'm almost transcribing what they're doing. And it's kind of, yeah, it makes me
That
sound a little crazy.
no, but that's what, like, psychics do,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
so
yeah, so
interesting. You're
yeah, so
channeling
my characters, like, I will have had a story planned, and I will
mhm,
be telling them what I want them to do, and then
mhm,
sometimes they just won't.
rebels,
Yeah,
rebels. Everybody
yes,
needs one in their lives.
exactly, exactly.
So, where does your inspiration mostly come from?
A lot of things that are in the stories, there's little bits and pieces of that came from real life, that were actually things that happened to me when I was on ships. Like, I was in an onboard ship fire. I was quarantined in Quebec once because it's like these are some future stories even that I'm already outlining and working on. There was an outbreak of a flu on board and we got quarantined there. We had the ship ran into the dock one time. So different, yeah. When you work for 10 years and I worked on like 8 different cruise lines, you know, you really like there's always something. There's always some kind of drama. And the characters that work on cruise ships tend to be pretty interesting people because not everybody's gonna go off and, go give up everything and go live on a cruise ship for a period of time. So the people who do that tend to be pretty interesting people.
Right,
So it's
right.
really easy to pull those characters in and make really fun characters for the books.
I heard that they have brigs on ships.
They
Just
do.
found that out
They
recently. I
really
was
do.
like, "What? Who knew?" But makes
Well,
sense, right?
so
I
you
mean,
better
it's
behave yourself when you go on a cruise because you don't want to end up there. And I mean, and it happens. Usually with passengers, what they do if you get into bad trouble is they will literally lock you in your cabin and they bring you room service and you can't leave your cabin, which is no one wants that. So yeah, be a good girl. Be a good
well,
girl.
I guess it's better than sitting in a ship dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would depend on what you did. Like, if you were drunk and disorderly, they're gonna keep you in your room, or you got into fights or something like that. But if it's a serious crime, they do have, like, an actual jail on board. Yeah.
So, what I'm wondering, like, would they ever bring in, like, a helicopter and scoot you off? But you never know, right?
Oh, yeah, the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard will do that. Yes, yes. I've actually seen that. Had, like, Coast Guard helicopters land on a ship that I worked on, not necessarily to get a bad guy off the ship, but yeah, the Coast Guard has landed on ships. I was working on a cruise ship when there was like a Cuban refugee crisis where a lot of people were coming over, like in inner tubes and small rafts and things. And there was a group of refugees that were in a boat. They had been there for days. Our ship ended up finding them. We were on our way to Key West
Oh,
and we pulled up next to them and stayed with them and got them food and clothing and things until the Coast Guard could come. And then the Coast Guard came in their boat and boarded and rescued them. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's like a whole different world and almost military in some ways, like
right.
the social structure of the ship and the hierarchy on the ship. So it
Hmm.
makes it interesting for the characters for the books because there's certain things that certain characters couldn't do and certain places they couldn't go and then certain places they can and things so it makes it really interesting.
I love this, all of it. It's so intriguing.
Cool.
So, Wendy, outside of writing, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do?
Well, big reader.
Mhm.
I love music. So my husband and I love to go see live music, and we were supposed to go see Stevie Nicks a couple weeks ago, but she ended up being ill and canceling. But we love to do that sort of thing, and so we have a lot of local bands that we like to go see. And
Awesome.
yeah, other than that, I'm pretty much a homebody, and I stay home and write books.
This great place when you come down to visit for us to
Yeah.
take you to
Oh, I
go see
can't wait.
live
Can't
music.
wait.
Love it.
Cannot
I
wait.
can't. So let's talk about your books. You did tell us a little bit about it, and you told us a little bit of your ideas, but is there any interesting fun fact about one of your books you wanna tell us?
The character in the book, obviously, I relate to her very much. She is a magician on cruise ships,
Mhm.
and it I think that's kind of common for anybody when you write a book that there's part of you that is included, and obviously she is not me, and she does things that I would never do. But it's been really fun to kind of explore, you know, like if I had made different choices in life, what that life could have been like. So I think that that is what makes it really interesting is that when you're living in these books and you're immersed in them. Even for me, like it's like I go back to those years where I worked on cruise ships, and in my mind, I have like this is the ship I worked on that I am in for these books. That is the SS Starlight. So it's been really fun, and I have I have like so many ideas. I right now all the books are set in the Caribbean, but I have future
Mhm.
plans in Alaska. I have ideas for all sorts of things, so I'm excited about them. They're just really fun, and I enjoy writing them.
That's awesome. I look forward to reading them, so
Well, you made my day yesterday, so with your comment.
so glad. I was like, "Aw, man, wrong one, wrong one." So, what are some themes you wanna explore in your mystery novels?
One of the big things that I think that I really felt was important was the fact that here she is, she's a woman, she's working on cruise ships. It's a really different lifestyle, and she kind of finds herself out alone on this ship and has to rebuild her life. And I think we've all gone through something like that where your life kind of gets pulled out from underneath you, and how are you able to bring yourself back and recover from that experience and make yourself stronger in the end and a better person when you get through it. And
Yeah.
one of the wonderful things about working on a cruise ship is there's always new people coming and going, but because
Mhm.
of that, like, you become really close to everybody really quickly. You're with them at Christmas, you're with them at your birthday, you're with them on their birthday, and so those friendships are really intense and really important. And I think that it's really fun in the book to explore those really tight relationships. And, I still have friends that I worked with when I was on cruise ship that are still part of my life that, I feel like they're family. So,
That is awesome. I was just about to ask you about that, if you still speak to them, and I love that. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
that. It's hard going through life, you go through these phases and people come and go, so it's good to
yeah.
have
And
like
obviously my life is so totally different than it
right.
was back then. And, a lot of my friends are still entertainers. They're still, doing that sort of thing. But for me, I loved the adventure. I loved getting to see new places. But once I had my kids, I just wanted to be home with my kids.
Sure, that
I
makes
didn't,
total sense.
yeah,
And life is phases, right?
exactly. Exactly.
So what does a typical writing day look like for you?
So usually in the morning, my husband is home getting ready for work, and my kids are around, and so I usually do like businessy things in the morning that don't take as much brain
Right,
power and things like that. So I work on my ads, or I work on outlining, or something like that. I have a really active Facebook group on. Um, so if you want to join the Facebook group, it's the Clue Crew, and we have a great time. It's really fun. So I spend a lot of time, I answer everybody's posts and questions, and I'm always looking for different things to post in there. We have lots of good conversations. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff in the morning. And then usually in the afternoon, when everything kind of quiets down and everybody's doing their own thing, I usually spend about 3 or 4 hours working on the book. So my favorite place in the world is out on my front porch. And I get my kitty cat and we go outside and we sit outside, and I will work on the book usually until my husband comes home and it's time for dinner. And it depends on the day, and I also there is kind of like uh, if things or other things are going on, or I'm in an editing phase or something that I may not write every single day. I know some people, they like write an hour every morning before they do anything else. And my brain just doesn't work that way. Like if I'm in a different project, I'm in that project. And then when I get back to working
yeah,
on the book, I am just in the book because it feels like it's so much easier for my imagination when I can have long stretches and just really live in that world.
That's wild. That's wild. I like that. So, do you have any like rituals or routines that help you write?
Yeah, actually, I think I do. I mean, I to get into that imaginary world and
Mhm.
to do that, I really need to kind of let everything else go and relax.
Okay.
So I will do a lot of deep breathing. I will kind of imagine the scene. I start thinking about what I think they would do and try to let all like the modern whatever's going on in life go so that I can just let myself go into that world and not think about the crazy thing I saw on the news or what my husband said at breakfast or, whatever those things are, or that I got to get this on the grocery list. Like, cause those things pop up all the time in your brain. And it's really hard to shut that off and just allow yourself to be in this imaginary world. So trying to get myself relaxed and centered and grounded and let all that stuff go, which is part of why I think for me, having like a lot of people, they want to write first, but then I have like all of these like, oh, you don't forget to, oh, you have to do this. Don't forget to put this on the list. And
Mhm.
instead, I try to get all that stuff done. So once it's done, I can
Free up
just
your
like
space.
put it aside and I don't have to worry about it because I wrote it down. I know I've got it and I can move on.
Mhm. Mhm. Does that take you a little while? Like that whole process?
It depends on the day and how stressful
Yeah.
the day is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some days it's really hard, and some days I don't get the 3 or 4 hours that I wanna get in. Some days it's like, it's just too hard to concentrate. There's too many things going on in life.
Right,
Um,
right,
yeah. So this year's been kinda rough. My husband's been really sick, and
mhm,
he's getting better, but it has, just absolutely zapped my writing time because it's hard to be happy and imaginative and things like that when you're dealing with all those kinds of things,
right, right. Stress is a huge factor. It
for sure.
really is. It
It is.
really is.
Yeah.
So, do you get writer's block or slumps? Like, do you ever have that happen to you?
Yeah. 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 No, it's frustrating, and it usually happens about midway through the book because, like, I outline and I
Mhm,
know kind of the gist of what I'm gonna do.
mhm.
But like I said, the characters don't always do what they're supposed to. And then sometimes you get to this middle and you're like, you want something interesting to happen, but you don't necessarily know what it is. And sometimes it'll take a couple of weeks of me,
Oh god,
trying different things and thinking of something and nope, that's not going to work. But then when it's the right thing, it'll be really wild because like you will have done something in chapter one. And then when the right thing happens, that thing in chapter one clicks and it just makes sense, which I
and then your
just think is
fingers
kinda magical. Yeah, it's really neat. Like, you'd be like, "I didn't even know that that's why I put that in there," but it'll be like a little something, and you're like, "Oh, that's it. That's the thing."
cool.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
really
cool.
fun.
I love
It's
it.
really fun.
So, what is your least favorite part of the writing process?
Oh, I don't like editing. I don't like editing, yeah. Um, I like it's fun. I like the plotting and the planning and the story ideation. That to me is super fun. But like when it gets down to like commas and that stuff, then I'm like when I'm done with the book, I'm kind of done and I'm ready to move on. But I would love it if I could just be like the end and then pass it off and never see it again, but it just doesn't work that way. So,
So, do you do an initial editing
yes.
yourself or okay, you do your
Yeah.
own and then do you have other people then like
Yes.
read it just to make sure that you didn't miss anything?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It goes through probably 3 or 4 different rounds of editing for every book. So I usually, it takes a couple of months for me to write the book and then usually about a month of editing.
Wow.
Yeah, because I
Wow.
go through the entire especially with mysteries, it's tricky because, you wanna make sure, like, there aren't any unanswered questions or that you didn't leave something hanging or, those
Yeah.
kinds of things. So, when you get done, you have to go over to the book and go over the book and go over the book.
Yeah,
So,
with like
it's not even just the grammatical things and the spelling. But I also for that, there's a program called Pro Writing Aid that is
oh,
mostly for authors that helps. It doesn't catch everything, but it's like an initial good round of editing. And then, yeah, chapter by chapter, it takes almost as long to edit as it does to write the book. And
ugh,
there's still every time you get the initial book back, you're still even after all the eyes. I'll have like 8 people who have read the book, including editing and all the beta readers and everything. And then I will still sometimes find something, or I'll get an email from somebody a year later with, "Did you know that, you know?"
So if someone does email you and found a
Oh, I'm
grammatical,
always grateful. I know some authors don't like it, but for me, I'm like, "No, I wanna know so I can go fix it."
oh, so you'll go fix it because then you can print it accurately in the future.
Yes.
Okay, good
Yes.
to know. Good
Yeah,
to know.
yeah. No, I always feel like it's a gift if somebody is, because I know that has to be scary if you're a reader and you see something. But I mean, I was reading a Random House novel and I saw a typo in it. I mean, it happens to everybody. And a big publisher like that, they've had so many eyes on it.
Yeah.
It just
No, do
happens.
you personally go and let them know, or do you just be like, "Oh,
Not
human."
Random House. Not Random House, yeah. I mean, if it was another author that, but I figure they probably know. Someone has probably already told them, and they probably they're probably like, "We have
Okay.
100,000 copies of this book printed, so it's just gonna have that." Whereas, one of the benefits of I'm an independent publisher, so I have my own
Right.
publishing company, and I hire my own editors. I hire,
Yeah.
whatever staff that
Yeah.
I need for those things, and the benefit of that is when I find something like that, I can correct it and just get the new one out. So because the books are printed as someone orders them,
See,
or the ebooks, I can make that change immediately. So it's a real benefit to it.
super cool, and that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
There's so many independent book writers now that it's nice
Yes.
that they're accessible. Like you can actually
Well, it's
email.
one of the reasons why, yeah, it was one of the reasons why I wasn't able to write it back in the day, because I would have had to, find an agent that would be willing to, I mean, I know people do it, and maybe I could have done it, but by the time I was on ships, there was, no internet. It was,
Right,
very
right.
difficult to do. And then when I got off ships, I was really busy raising kids and things. And by the time I had the idea again, and I had the brain power to be able to do it, this whole world of publishing had changed and opened up. And I know, there is some, I guess people think there's status to have a publisher pick you. And that would be great. But at the end of the day, what matters is that you write good stories, you make sure they're high quality, and that your readers love them.
Yes. I love all of that. So great to hear. So, just kind of in conclusion, so if someone was new to your books, which one would you recommend they read?
Well, the first full novel in the series is Murder Takes a Bow. My website is wendynugentbooks.com, and all of my books are there. I do have a prequel novella that is, it's kind of a bonus that you wouldn't have to read it to get the entire story, but it's the story of when Olivia, the main character in the book, adopts Chico, her parrot, and how that came to be. So it's a shorter mystery, but it's really cute. So you can start with Gotcha, is that book, or Murder Takes a Bow if you just want to read just the cruise ship, because the first one, she wasn't on a cruise ship when she adopted him. So those are those. And one more thing that I wanted to share with everybody is that I am hosting reader cruises. So I am going to be hosting a called the Clue Crew Cruise. Not the best name because I can't hardly say it, but
Come on,
it's
7 times.
adorable. It's adorable, but it's hard to say. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of solo cruisers. So if you feel like you would love to go on a cruise, but you don't have anybody to cruise with, come with us. And we're going to do multiples of these. So if you're watching this in the future, go to my website, and there's wendynugentbooks.com, and there's a tab that says cruise with me. And I'll put the link down in the show notes as well. And we're going to do more of these because it's going to be super fun. And we've got like I said, a lot of people that are by themselves. They're big readers, so they're great people because readers are the best people. And
Mhm.
you've got a little community of people to do things with on the ship. And we're going to do some fun mystery activities. We're going to play games and some trivia and do all sorts of fun stuff. And so, yeah, I really hope that some of you guys want to come and join us. And the other thing I wanted to tell everybody is that we are starting a book club. And I am so excited about this book club because I love to talk about books, but we don't always want to go to an in-person book club. And so Jen and I are starting a book club.
Are.
And we're going to have a link down below. And every month, the members of the book club are going to get a free book. You can't beat that, a free mystery. All the books are going to be mysteries. and they're all going to be clean mysteries. And so you're going to get your free book, and we're going to have an author interview that's going to be on YouTube, and then we're going to have an in-depth book club interview where you're going to really get into the details of how their writing process and how they wrote the book and the ideas that they come up with. And I think it's going to be super exciting, and I hope everybody joins. And the link is down below in the description box. So please come aboard and join us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Wendy. It was fabulous seeing your gorgeous face and chatting once again.
Love you. So thank you. And I can't wait to do more interviews with you. We've got more interviews planned with lots of different authors. All my friends, I have been contacting them, getting them involved in the book club so that you all get to watch and get to know them. And, authors are really interesting people. And I think you're going to enjoy all of the interviews and getting to know some of your favorite authors, or authors that you don't know yet. They're going to become your favorite authors because they're just really interesting people. So keep tuned in and check out the rest of our series on the Clue Crew Mystery Channel.